Welcome back to Dark Marketing. I'm your host, Big Dom, and in this video we're going to cover RankerX. So let's get started. Okay, after you have RankerX installed, the application, on your computer, it will launch and you will have to log in, and then the application will run in your web browser. Checking for update. Open application. Every once in a while I see these error messages, but they don't seem to impact anything. And then this may be because I'm on a new system. Basically, with a single RankerX license, you can put it on 2 computers, but you can only run one at a time. And unfortunately, the computer that I ran all my campaigns on met its last ran its last campaign a couple of weeks ago, and that computer died and had to be replaced. But some things have changed with the RankerX, and having a sort of clean setup here gives us a good opportunity to get into the process and allow you to see some things like some basic costs for capture from a single campaign, things like that. So, that being said, we're logged in now, and I only ran a single campaign on this system, and I changed the name so I don't have to show my client's name. But before we take a look at campaigns, I want you to see that the content is separate, and you connect the content separately to the campaign. But before we get to any of that, we've got to go through the basic settings, because unlike other products that we use for backlinking, there is no third-party softwares that you're going to be able to utilize here. No ex-evil. Everything is third-party API in order to make this function. So let's take a look at those settings. Now, before you can do anything, obviously you have to get your settings. So when you click here, it opens into another tab, and then we have this across the board here. So, general, I leave everything as it is, okay? Nothing to get, to be messing around with those settings. Proxies. You will need paid proxies for this. Now, as you can see here, I've loaded an extremely high quantity, but this was absolutely unnecessary. A small amount will suffice for this software, because RankerX is not going to be making thousands of posts. It runs a more narrow range of posting, but we'll get to that. But this is where you'll need to add your proxies, and it has a proxy checker built in, so it can check your proxies for you when they're good or bad. Capture services, okay? Now, no ex-evil, no GSA capture breaker. You must use third party. So, what I decided to do was, I purchased their new service, the Zero Capture, and I have 2 Capture, which I used. But what I did with my first campaign that I ran on this system, using this capture, I wanted to be able to exemplify what the cost is. So let's just pause for a second and take a look at the campaign that I ran. And when we look at the campaign, these are how it lays out what was done afterwards. So we see the different tiers, but the main thing I want to take away here from this, because we can see the accounts, we see the backlinks. And what we see here now is, look, we don't really get the sort of quantity of backlinks. 44, 44, 25, 28, 43. So when you start to add these up, you really, and this was not a massive diagram that I used either, but there's only probably about 500 backlinks. But the idea is that you're getting a higher quality backlink than you would be, say, with a money robot. Now, that being said, so just that you see the quantity of backlinks, because versus what was the capture cost. So we can check our balance. And so basically, I put a $50 balance in, and all of those captures didn't even cost me 50 cents. As you can see here, my balance is now $49, 57 49, micro pennies. So that's what we're talking about here. Now, when we go to the Google caption, same thing. We're going to set the captions that we're using. And I do recommend two, and I believe that two captcha is actually cheaper, but I'm probably going to have to, probably the next one, I'll run a single one just on two captcha, and we can compare the cost on a similar campaign. Now, let's go to the content. Now, here is something that really just made this software much nicer. And, of course, it's all thanks to OpenAI, because this is where you can set your resources for article creation. Now, Article Forge, I no longer have a paid account with them. I let it expire because, as I've indicated in previous videos, I'm using OpenAI or ChatGPT for all of my content creation now. But if you use Article Forge, Content Machine, or Ultra Spinnable Article, they've got the interfaces to connect to those systems. Now, what I did is I used my OpenAI paid key, and the cost is very nominal. I don't think all the content that I've generated in here and on another system, the system that I replaced that was broken, I put RankerX on, and I set it to create some content, and it created like 1,000 articles. And I was like, I must have did a little typo or something. But between that and the content I've created on here with this, and I also use this API key with some other resources, I don't think I've been billed $10, since the beginning. Very inexpensive. And this is my recommended way to go, is with the OpenAI key, because I've been very happy with the content that it generates. Now, for the spinners, okay, I already have a spin rewriter license, and I tie that API into a lot of things. However, I prefer to spin my content with ChatGPT, okay? Let's just stop and take a quick look and refresh on that. Now, what I like to do is go to ChatGPT, search spin tax, so I get filtered, and there's now a fourth spin tax option. But generally, I like to use the convert article to spin tax, and I paste my whole article right in here. And then I let ChatGPT create the spin tax. Now, using this particular one, sometimes, look, ChatGPT, it's not always perfect. Sometimes the spin tax, it's a little too broad, where it's just spinning two variations of a sentence, and there's not really a lot of individuality in the words. And that was kind of like a result. I was getting stuck with a lot of the ones that I was spinning, and I realized it was the nature of the content. So I want to share my approach and help you understand the options of how to integrate the spinning with this, because with this particular system that RankerX has, it's much better, even when you're using a third-party spinner versus ChatGPT. Now, coming back to my spin rewriter settings for this particular one here, I have mine set to medium and nested spin tax. So you have to kind of, you can play around with this pretty easily, as you'll see in the next steps. Now, another thing I did was I signed up for Word AI, okay? And for some reason, it's just not working. Fortunately, I'm on a trial, so I'm going to probably cancel. But really, using Word AI, you can only really use it. It's not for the content creation. It's for the spinning. And it will also tie in with, if you're going to use for your content, if you use Article Forge, you'll be able to tie in the Word AI with this in the process. But for whatever reason, it said that my articles were too long, and we'll take a look at that when I try to run one later. I'll show you a little bit better in the in a live demo, so we actually see it. Now, the indexer, I haven't used any indexers. What I do is I extract my backlinks and I index them myself with GSA Search Engine Ranker. But I am actually going to try their indexer because, look, there's only 500, if I'm only getting 500 backlinks, and when we look at the pricing, they're only charging, a very small, that's what? It's not even a 1%, 1.5% for each one of a penny. Not bad. So I don't expect it to cost but a couple dollars to do the indexing, and I thought I'd give it a try, and we'll see how that works as we do a campaign, okay? But otherwise, I'll take my backlinks out and extract them. RankerX Indexer, this is not really a utilizable thing. And block sites, I don't have any sites to block, so I don't have anything here. But that pretty much is going to cover the gambit of the general settings. That's what you need to make this run, okay? So if you're not going to use an indexer service with this, you're going to have to take your backlinks out, and what I would suggest is you use GSA indexer for that. Okay, so let's move on to the next piece. Okay, what I want to do is take you through this process visually, even though we're going to use something existing, in the next steps. So we want to create a new content group of articles, okay? So I'm going to make this DIY, do-it-yourself automotive repair, okay? And voila, that's what we got, is just a title. So now we want to click on that. Now remember, I'm using ChatGPT's OpenAI to generate my articles. But this is what's really good here. You get to put in your protected words. These are the phrases you don't want your spinner to disseminate by interchanging those words and it causing it to lose the meaning. So let's take an example of how I would approach this, as I want to make some articles for do-it-yourself auto repair to backlink a segment of my blog site, right? So I'm going to be building content, so I tell it I need a list of SEO keyword phrases for DIY automotive repair. So let's see what it gives us. Oh, stop. Comma separated, please. Okay, well that works. It'd be better if they put it in a paragraph, which sometimes I get, but that's all right. We're going to just take this. Now, generally, I like to get about 60 phrases that I'm going to use. And I may, if I don't like what I'm getting, or I may make some edits, or I might change a few things. But this has given me a pretty good list already. So, because a lot of times, on average, I'll get 30. So sometimes I may say, ask it for so many and give me 30 that are a little different direction. So I'm going to use these phrases because I'm going to use these phrases to generate my articles as well. So I want them in here protected. Okay? I'm going to, just for the sake of expediency, make 10 articles. Okay? And I'm generating with OpenAI. And now I'm going to take that list of phrases, and those are my keywords for the articles. And I want 10. And my topic is automotive repair. Did I spell that right? Yes. Oh, yes. Okay, and my language is English. And that is it. Voila. That's the basic thing. Just for this example, I might sometimes put a more elaborate title, that the benefits of DIY automotive repair versus, a professional, something along those lines. So, you can get kind of liberal with that, but it should be based around the keywords. This is just for example, but, you want to put some thought in that, because as always, guys, the quality of what you produce, the end result, matters. It really matters if you want to have success. So now we're going to click generate, and it's going to go off and do its thing. And this doesn't take too long. And you can see here, it's got a little timer bar. And I'll just pause the video, and we're going to wait till it completes, and then we're going to move on to the next phase. Okay, That only took a couple minutes, 10 articles, voila. So let's click on one and look at the layout. And as you can see here, here's our body. And this is what I like about this. It makes the title, the body, it puts formatting in it with paragraph tags and various heading tags and such. So it makes for a nice layout. It creates an author bio, author name with already spin tags applied to that. Now, I want to show you the approach that I took with the campaign that I did originally. And what I did is I would take all this content like this out of here. And I was going to my ChatGPT. Come on, AIM. Let's go. There we go. And spin tags. And then I would convert the article to spin tags. Okay? And because I get it, and even with all this tagging in here, it's fine. Works fine. And I would just let it go and do its thing. Now, this is going to take a couple of minutes, and so we'll just pause the video. I'll come back to this at the end. Now, ChatGPT has completed, and what you can see here, you can see that this spin tags, it's very broad in the sense, look, it's really just spinning an entire sentence here, or 2 or 3 sentences, not really breaking down by the word. So you see that? That's one bit of spin tags with three variations. And that's okay. It's very general, nothing huge here. So now I'm going to take this content, I bring it back over to RankerX, and I replace this. Now, even though it's replaced, it is not saved, okay? So when we're previewing it, we are previewing it in an unsaved mode. So I can keep refreshing it and see my changes, okay? So we close out of that, but I'm not yet saved. And that's important to recognize because sometimes you're gonna have a problem. Now, what I found that even with this very broad spin tags, I can now spin it again using the spin rewriter. And again, this will just take a moment, and then once this is done, I will test it. 9 times out of 10, it works fine. 1 in 10, I have an issue where it just won't handle the new spin tags inside the, nesting it inside the original spin tags. And again, before I save it, I can preview it and take a look at what's the format here. And I can refresh it and keep seeing that, and read it over and make sure it makes sense. And I'm like, okay, I'm very happy. These articles are a little short, but that's okay. So now that that's done, I can save it. Voila. And I will do all of my articles this way. But because of the feature when you create your content that allows you to mask out the words that you don't want affected, that's extremely useful. Especially, there are times when you're going to have a bigger list of phrases you want to add in to mask out in a range of articles, especially, if you're producing 50 at one time and the topic is comprehensive and your keywords are going to appear even more than the actual keywords that you gave it to generate the content along with the title. And you're going to see that this works very well with OpenAI. You don't need Article Forge and you don't need Word AI. And the reason I purchased, I didn't purchase it, I took the 3-day trial, was so that I could test it. But let's just take a look. Now that I've saved that, let's go back to our content group. Let me go to the next article and let me attempt to spin using Word AI. And let's see. You cannot press articles longer than 1,000 words with the current settings. Please try again with a shorter or different setting. So, I'm not really clear because I messed around with the spinner settings for this several times, and let's try that. Let's just try that, because even though I say check, it's valid. It's really just checking the API key. So let me just get a little refresh, go back into it, and let me see. I get lucky. See? But that, where is that limitation being set? I don't know. And so that's kind of a showstopper for me. And, already I'm like, well, I'm probably not going to be paying for Word AI. I'm just going to cancel out the trial. So, but with my spin rewriter, which is very affordable, works fantastic, especially with this keyword masking approach, that I can make sure it's not going to disseminate my keyword phrases that are critical in the article. And so once I've got all my articles together, voila, now assuming I've got a whole thing done, and you can see when you're done because it spun the title too, and you'll see it in your title. And once I go through them all, I'm ready to attach this to a campaign. All right, now we're going to create our campaign. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to using the X Wizard option because, as always, this is the quick start guide, and I'm going to just put in here my baking client. Okay, and we'll just put number 2. Now we're going to select our strategy, and these are one of their basically the diagrams that they're going to use. So let's say SEO expert, you see, and it'll show us various diagrams. I forget which one I chose for my first one with my baker's client, and I think I used the Web 2.0's PBN Dominator on this one, but let's do SEO expert on for the sake of argument on this. Okay, so now all sites, tier 1, tier 2, all sites. Pay attention because we have this dual option for tiers, which is based on our strategy here, which is a 2-tier strategy. So if I were to select if I change it, then we're going to have a different diagram strategy in the sense of tiers. Now, another nice thing that we're not going to cover in here is that you can attach one campaign to a previous campaign and tier things up that way as well, creating tiered structures for a more super structure of tiering. But I have some thoughts about that. I'm not going to talk about that in this video, but so now here's where we're going to get into our links and keywords. Okay, and remember, tier 1, tier 2, and if your diagram has 4 tiers, you're going to have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. And so how we set up our information in here, very similar the approach like in SEO Autopilot. Now, as I outlined with the keywords in the beginning, let's go back to ChatGPT, and let me see if I can just pull that up. Here we go. And generally, as I said, I usually use about 60 phrases, and so I'll use 30 on the front end and 30 on the back end. And what I mean by that is like this. In here, where it wants primary keywords, I got my main keywords. And of course, I'm not necessarily just relying on ChatGPT. It's a combination of how I built my articles and gave it some direction. And I put the second list in here, okay? And there could be some crossover, overlap, or it could be all of it in the second one. Now here, I'm going to take this down to because what happens is, as we increase over here, if I put 10%, this one becomes 90%. Understand? So depending on how I want to balance that out, I might go 20 here, 80 there. And it depends on how many keyword phrases and that I have in each field. And you just want to kind of feel it out, 90-10, 80-20. Also, the tags, okay? Same thing. Like, this gave it to me comma separated, so it's going to take it. And I'll use the same thing. Whatever my keywords are, that's what I'm using for my tags, just as a rule. Now, also as a rule, I'm going to have a minimum of 2 links per post. 3 maximum is fine, okay? Oh, see what I did here by mistake? I selected tier 1 because tier 2. I should have started with tier 1, which is basically identical, because then when I get to tier 2, I could just copy the settings from tier 1. And likewise, if this would have been a campaign that had 4 tiers to it, I could have copied settings in between tiers, from from tier 1 to tier 2 and make something different for tier 3 and copy that to tier 4. Any way you want to mix and match with that, which is really nice. Replace keywords, that's one of the best approaches, I think, is just to take the replace keywords. And if you're using keywords that you use to generate your articles and you're smart about your strategy, things matching up, which is kind of critical, that's the best approach, to have it naturally occurring as anchor text in the document. But you can do things like between sentences, paragraphs, replace link tags, etc., etc. Okay? But for now, with this approach, we're going to say replace keywords. Now, branded keywords, once in a while, you may want to have the name of your website. You might want to put that in there one time, like mysite.com or whatever your brand, your technical brand is. But I want you to think about this in a different regard. And see, when I put 3%, it takes away from my primary keywords. If you're doing e-commerce and you're promoting branded products, let's say you sell sports gear and might be Nike in there and some things like Nike and I don't know, Air Jordan and whatever. I'm not really up on the brands, but this is a place to slip in a few brand names that's really about the brand of products that you might be selling in your e-commerce thing. Generic keywords, I don't even mess around with these kind of thing anymore. That's like click here, learn more, read more, that kind of thing. Those are generic links. I tend to not use those at all. And voila, Now, once I got that, I'm going to select my content manager, okay? So who am I going to pick? Now I'm going to go in here and select my baking bread, okay, articles. Oh, look, there it goes in the drop down. Now see that? That's for tier 1. Now I could have a second group. You see, now let's suppose I created a different group, and in my tier 2, I went in a different direction. Let's just say, hey, I was all about baking bread in tier 1, and in tier 2 it's all about pizza dough or bruschetta or some other specific type of baking. Maybe it's baking pies and not bread. And so tier 2, we want the keywords to be about that, the articles to be created for that. We have a different content group. See where I'm going with this? This is going to automatically, you want this to do everything automatic. So you don't have to do anything here. Emails, okay? We want RankerX to do it all. We're not going to cover in this video, there's the quick start guide, but you can use your own email accounts, your own catch-all emails, okay? And then we're going to come back to the indexer. Now, I'm not doing it in this video because I'm not actually running an actual campaign, but I'm going to go with their recommended indexing service, spend a little thing, and run it in my next campaign. And in the next video, where we cover some more advanced topics and tiering some of these things together and look at some of the other options like blurbs and the like, we will get this thing going. Because basically, once you click create campaign, you are ready to run and you can start and go. You can also schedule your campaigns. You can also run multiple campaigns and reuse campaigns and its content, because the content is actually separate from the actual campaign that you run. And that's really nice, allowing you to build multiple content groups for the same thing and tiering them together, and even tiering one campaign with a previous campaign. But that's it for this quick start guide, because that's all you need to know to get up and running. And other than that, it's really just about what's your cost, okay? Now, RankerX, if you're going to try it out, you want to just go by the month, it's $50 a month, $49.99. My recommended approach with all these things is always take the lifetime license and save yourself the long-term expense, because let's face it, even annually, you're only saving $100 off the monthly. So if you want to just test it at first, it's inexpensive to get into for hey, for $50 a month for the basic licensing, if you're not ready for lifetime. And then, you're going to have to think about buying a little CAPTCHA, a little money for your CAPTCHA. And if you put $50 into CAPTCHA services and $50 into indexing, that's going to go a very, very long way, for your CAPTCHAs. When I usually buy for 2 CAPTCHA, I put like $25 in the account. And that lasts me for months because I just use it for spillover things, or when I was using it for this software, because that's all I could do. Now that they have the 0 CAPTCHA, it's much, something else to try out, and we'll cover some more advanced stuff in the next video. But for this quick start guide, hey, listen guys, for like $100 you can be up and running really quick. And the key, when you use your OpenAI key, it's nothing, it's micro pennies. I've generated a lot of content both with this and with other platforms using my OpenAI key. I don't think I've even exceeded, spent $10 yet. So, the cost is very nominal as far as that goes. Now that's all I'm covering in this video. And if you were to jump into this product today, based on this video guidelines, I don't think you're going to have too much trouble getting into, doing your campaigns manually. Once you just kind of get through the basics, do a campaign like the way I outlined, you'll get the feel of it pretty quickly. It's very friendly, and there is more to explore and more for me to cover in here. I give this product like 5-star rating, and in my opinion, Money Robot is probably the starting product or easiest one to get into. This would be the next product stepping up from that. I would put SEO Autopilot above this one because you can do a lot more backlinks with SEO Autopilot. However, it's just a great product because, like so many things, it has its own approaches, as we're going to talk about in other videos, and how you can tier these campaigns together. It's very robust and pretty cost effective, considering that you can't bring any other softwares into the process like GSA Capture Breaker or XEvil. You have to use the third-party API, but all of this is pretty nominal. And you can really, get started with this pretty inexpensively if you just wanted to go with the monthly license and you had to get some CAPTCHAs. If you put $50 into your CAPTCHAs, that's going to last you quite a few campaigns, obviously. And then, of course, just the GPT, your OpenAI key, which is nominal, and you don't have to really pay anything up front. So it's easy to get started. Oh, and of course, there is the matter of your proxy. So, if you've got some basic proxy plan, small plan, whatever you got that you put in for the proxy settings, you'll be fine. In the past, I've run this with just 10 or 30 proxies successfully because, it's not a huge amount of sites that it's posting to. So, you don't need, like me, I probably put a 5,000 list in here. And that's really it. But I really like this product, and I also like the quality, not only of the integration, but how it works with the OpenAI. I mean, just a game changer in terms of the quality of the articles. And Spin Rewriter is nominal. I think it's $75 for a year for the Spin. If you choose to use spinrewriter.com. Plus they have a whole interface. You can spin articles. You can actually log in and do a bunch of stuff. But for me, I just have it for the API. So when I want to pull it into other applications. Now, while I was getting away from these kind of tools, I'm going to keep this service because it works very well in the way that RankerX handles, that allows you to filter out the words you don't want to be spun. So finally, people are getting smarter because, that really can damage your article syntax in the sense that, if it loses its meaning, like I said, Google can't read, but it's not stupid. And this information is going to get parsed and passed upward. And it's gotta, for all intents and purposes, stand up to looking real, to whatever is observing it, to rank it, in the infrastructure of the multiverse out there of platforms that make for the end result of what we're trying to achieve with this, which is to build ranking for our web pages, commerce sites, our blog sites, whatever that end resource that we're really trying to establish for SEO. And so this is really a solid tool in that regard. That's all for this video, guys. Remember to please follow if you like this content. Give us a like. Don't forget to do that. And of course, if you got more questions about this and the other softwares that we cover on this channel, join the Discord group. We're just getting started and we're getting some interesting talk in there and guys bringing in their questions, and it's very interesting for me to see the different kind of scenarios that everyone's trying to do with the softwares. That's it for today, guys. Have a great day.